Can you see that? There's a blob of hot glue in there. What the Walmart's trying to get into building gaming PCs and it's not looking good. So this is the DTW3. We paid $2,251.18 for this gaming PC. It is a 1080 Ti build with an 8700 CPU non-K. And then we don't yet know what the motherboard or the power supply are. Those are the most interesting here because they're the easiest parts to cheap out on. And it's supposed to have also, I believe, 32 gigabytes of memory in it. So this is the most expensive one that Walmart makes. And we paid for it. Bought it myself. And the front panel is the most immediate point of concern, where there is about 2 millimeters of space for the fans to breathe. But what we're gonna do today is take it apart, look at the quality of components, and figure out if there's anything Walmart could have done better for their first gaming PC builds. Before that, this video is brought to you by us and the Just Buy It code. Unlike real-time ray tracing, our merch actually exists. To commemorate the most memorable quote of the year, and also Black Friday, but mostly the first thing, everything in the GN store is 10% off with the discount code Just Buy It at checkout. That includes our most popular item, the critically acclaimed GN Mod Mat, our shirts, ceramic coffee mugs, and GPU component posters, and everything else. As a bonus, this is also a great way to support GN's work. The code lasts through November 26th. Go to store.gamersnexus.net or click the link below. First, more immediately noticeable thing is the cable management. You can see they've actually installed a GPU support, by which I mean they're using the USB 3.0 header to retain the video card by the cables. So yeah, cable management certainly could be better. Not much room for it, but we've got a bunch of wiring running around here, and that's because the USB 3 header is running to an expansion slot in the back for Type-C, which actually means that they end up with no USB 3 on the top of the case. I'm more curious about this memory stick. So let's take this out. All right. Okay, so the memory. DDR4 2400 CL17 16 GX17B. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and say this is a 16 gigabyte stick, which is 50% of what I paid for. Okay. That's not correct. Video card should be a 1080 Ti. It is a gigabyte card, so I'll give Kyle credit for identifying that in his video by only the rear IA or the expansion cover. Okay, video card support bracket. No present opinion on that because I'm more concerned about if we got what we paid for. The video card retention system of a USB 3 cable is working though. So, okay. This video card is model GV1070, which is not a 1080 Ti. It's in fact quite far from a 1080 Ti. So, okay, so 1070. 16 gigabytes of RAM. What we bought versus what we got. We bought this. We put a screenshot on the screen or something. This is a $2,100 computer before shipping. You can see GTX 1080 Ti, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabyte SSD. The one in here is not that either. And that's $2,100, which is already a ripoff. This is already a tremendous ripoff. Walmart has the biggest margins we've seen of any of the SIs. It's completely crazy because if you look at even just like iPower, CyberPower, you can get an RTX 2080 and a 9700K for cheaper than this, actually. So that's already a ripoff. But what they've done is rip us off more. We got this. So we bought the $2,100 1080 Ti system, already being ripped off, and then we received the $1,400 Overpowered Gaming DTW1, and you can actually, where's that invoice? On the invoice, where is it? Invoice, OP Game Desktop DTW3 PC, $2,099. Clearly, I clicked the right thing, I added the right thing to the cart, and I paid for the right thing. That was a very expensive thing to buy. And what we got was a DTW1, which is a different SKU, with a GTX 1070, 16 gigabytes of RAM. So here's the thing. They shipped the wrong product. There's a few ways to look at that. But the box it came in says NVIDIA GTX 1070. So they put the right computer in the right box. And I guess that makes it. All they had to do is check the invoice to make sure the right computer went to the right person. But then if you look at this one, the external shipping container, it also says DTW1. Oh, also separately, their logo is a puffer fish. I guess because that's the only, to quote Patrick, that's the only fish that's shaped like an O. That's a pretty colossal fuck up by Walmart on that one, but it could be a cross-shipping issue. I guess the real question is whether support will help us out, I guess.
Thank you for calling Cielo Customer Support. You have reached us at...
Wait a minute.
Thank you for calling Cielo Customer Support.
Cielo.
You have reached us after business hours. Please call back between the hours of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
4? It's 4:13 in California.
Cielo Customer Support.
Oh, there's
You have
no
reached us after business hours.
there's no voicemail
Please call
option.
back
That's
between
nice.
the hours of 7.
Shut up.
Thank you for calling Walmart Stores Customer Service. To track a Walmart.com order, press 2. For all other Walmart.com, for photo support, press 1. For all other existing orders, press 2. For assistance, please. Your estimated wait time is under 1 minute. Hi, thank you so much for calling Walmart.com.
Hi, I ordered one of the overpowered Walmart gaming PCs, and it just got here, and it's actually not the right product.
The first and last name, please.
Steve Burke.
Oh, what a nice name, Sir Steve. And to fully access your account here in my end, what's the complete billing address?
Yeah, so I ordered the DTW3 is the model number, and I received the DTW1, which is it's a price difference. The product I received is a $1,400 product, and the one I paid for is a $2,100 product.
Oh, I do understand that, sir, and I do apologize for that. So, you received the TW3, right?
So I guess they'll ship a replacement after they get this one back. So the reason this bothers me, though, is because we don't know if this is just some widespread logistics issue or it's a one-off and they just happened to hit a reviewer with it. But if it is a wider spread issue, the concerning point is that it's a computer. The target audience for a Walmart computer is probably someone who doesn't know a lot about computers, like maybe a parent buying for a kid to play Fortnite or something. And that audience isn't going to know the difference between the parts in this one and the parts in the $2,100 one we were supposed to get. So the concerning thing is if this happens on any scale of 1 or greater, there is a high chance potentially of a customer not knowing they got significantly less than what they paid for. And that is ultimately the problem here with what we ended up with. I mean, yeah, they're going to replace it. They're not cross-shipping, which is pretty annoying, but they're going to replace it. It's just that it shouldn't have to be replaced. And the concern, again, is that someone won't know they got less than what they actually paid for because computers are complicated. But anyway, let's take apart the rest of the thing. So clearly it's not the correct one, but we can still critique the build process and the build quality. Well, that explains why that USB 3 cable was kind of difficult to remove. They've got a big blob of hot glue on the motherboard holding the USB 3 header in. Why? Why would you do that? It's fine. Like, I guess for shipping purposes, they don't want it to come out or something, but seriously? Okay, so what is the motherboard? It is a Gigabyte H310M S2. Is that the 22 nanometer chipset model? Let's see. How is this $70? The cable management clearly could have been done better. So they've got, yeah, I guess they could have routed some of it through here. I was going to say they don't have a ton of options with this case, but for example, these two SATA cables could be routed through this hole here. That would be a bit cleaner. This could be routed through that hole. These could be routed through this hole, and then this could, for example, not exist. So what I really want to know is the thermal paste application and the power supply. Let's start with the power supply. there's the cables. I mean, they are tied down. Like, to their credit, they actually did kind of cable manage this side. What's the power supply, though? I'm curious if the power supply is improved as they increase the component, like if they actually shipped me one with a 1080 Ti. So it is a Great Wall power supply, probably also the case manufacturer. And it can do 21 amps on the CPU, which is really not indicative of a whole lot. Does it have a, oh yeah, there you go. 500 watts, 1070, 8700, that's fine, but either way, not a great power supply. Is it rated 80 plus anything? I don't think so. They had it face, the fan was facing the right direction, that's good. Better than expected. CPU can do 252 watts, so I mean, that's fine for an 8700 not overclocked CPU, I guess. Definitely a garbage power supply. This whole thing is kind of a ripoff. I mean, yes, you can always build your own for cheaper, but that's not really the point here. The point is that you could go to like any other SI that's existed forever. CyberPower, iBuyPower, you could go to even someone like Dell probably and get a better quality system, like with better parts in it for a cheaper price. So we have an iBuyPower system here that's $2,000 cheaper, and it has an RTX 2080, not a 1080 Ti, although we never did get that, and it has a 9700K, and again, it's cheaper, and it has like real parts in it. So that's definitely a big difference here between Walmart's and what the other people make, the incumbent SIs. So they replaced the reset switch with an LED button on the top. You can push it to change the color of the LEDs. That is plugged into an extension cable, which then goes into an LED and fan controller, although not a good one. But so no direct fan speed control for the case fans. So this goes on the side, and where'd it go? Do we have object permanence yet? It's gone. So no airflow at all on this side. Glass comes all the way out to the front for some reason. That motherboard, an H310 motherboard, is on this chipset, they're dealing with significantly reduced bandwidth. So the bus speed here, instead of 8 gigatransfers per second DMI3 with basically any other Intel motherboard or chipset, like the B360 chipset, you're getting 5 gigatransfers per second DMI2. So that's a significant reduction. Also, the memory is a bit funny here. You'll notice it has 2 slots. This is going to be true on pretty much all H310 motherboards. They can only have 1 DIMM per channel. So the max you can have is really 2 DIMMs. And that is a limiter as well. USB support, the I/O support is significantly limited. You're dealing with a lot fewer USB devices. The max number of PCI Express lanes off of the chipset, that'd be that thing right there, is reduced to 6 from 12 on the B360 board. So big differences there in chipset quality, and choosing this chipset on what is really supposed to be a high-end gaming machine is a poor cost-saving move by Walmart or whomever they are employing to do this. Next thing, this is just kind of sloppy in here. So you'll notice that there's an 8-pin EPS 12-volt connector for a 4-pin EPS 12-volt slot on the motherboard. And although it's fine, because, I mean, clearly they just split in half anyway, it's fine. It's just, they should have pre-split. It's just sloppy to have half of the connector hanging over the motherboard header without being in use. Okay, now the real quality inspection can begin. Check that out. Do you need some sticky substance on your USB 3 cable? Because you get it with Walmart, along with probably everything else on their store shelves. So here's our board, and pretty small board. H310M S2 gigabyte board. Kyle did his video talking about the product page, and in Kyle's spirit, because he can't see this in person right now, I will mention it's got the ketchup and mustard cables, accompanied by whatever blue is associated with. Blue cheese? I don't know. I'm fine with those typically, but that's because I want to be able to clamp things or know where the voltages are. For something like this, I would actually prefer them to be blackout. I mean, they're expensive systems. Oh yeah, we should look at the fan. Kunan is the fan, or maybe if it's Pinion, then maybe Tsunan. Thermal total solution provider, double ball bearing, DC 12 volt, and probably about 92 millimeters, but let's just double check. 92 millimeters, as you can see on the digital calipers. Oh, well, yeah, depending on how you cut it, I guess. 85 blade to blade, but let's call it roughly 92, because that's a real size. And then we can look at their thermal paste application quality, because that's a small attention to detail thing that I feel like they would mess up. I still can't get over that they're using an H310 motherboard with nearly like half the DMI as B360, and yet it's got an 8700. Oh no, my fingerprints are gonna be in the thermal paste now. They'll know. Let's see if there's actually an 8700 and see if they robbed us there too. Yep, there's an 8700. Gonna go with inoffensive for the rest of that. Okay, this part's kind of interesting too. So, drives. You might be asking how many hard drives. You're not, but you are now. And the reason you're asking is because there's one hard drive in there, and when you boot this thing into Windows, we already ran thermal tests on this before the teardown. Patrick's been doing a lot of that. Once you boot into Windows, you'll see that there are 4 partitions for the hard drive. We're not sure why. There is an SSD that we're booting from as well. I'm not sure what spec that is though. Let's try and get access to that. ADATA, TLC. It's the critically acclaimed ISSS 316 ADATA drive. 540 sequential read, 510 sequential write. That's fine. No easily found IOPS rating, but the sequential's fine. So anyway, that's the SSD. Now, one thing Patrick noticed here is if you look at that controller we were talking about for the fans, the question is, does it look familiar? So there's the Lian Li one. In fact, this controller even uses the same obnoxious fan header as the Lian Li fans. So you could put Bora fans in here, those annoying ones from before they revamped them, where it's a proprietary header nothing else uses. Realistically, Lian Li is probably buying this, almost certainly buying this fan controller from the same company as Walmart is. It's not, I sincerely doubt Lian Li is OEMing this controller for Walmart. It's probably just they found the same supplier. But just kind of interesting if you wanted to see some familiar parts in here. Okay, so we've criticized a lot here. Let's look at the upsides. The upsides are they're using the SSD cages as cable management guides. Okay, no. Try to stay positive. Try to stay positive. They have actual cable management routing clips here, just plastic guides, and they're used pretty well. So, job well done, I guess, for using the space that they have. Some of the cables should be routed through different holes, like, I don't know, anywhere else, but there's not a whole lot of room for them to route stuff. I guess you could, like I was saying earlier, push some of the cables through this channel because the motherboard only covers about half of this final distance here. So it's cable management's okay on the back, sort of. It's just that, like, I think that's about the only positive thing I can find. The panel spacing is terrible. Dust filters are lacking, so there's 0 dust filter on the front. You know, we were going to take that front panel off. Let's do that. Where are you going? Need that to send it back. All right, so here's another problem. No dust filter. And this is just really, really such a small expense to skip. This is a consumer-facing mainstream computer that probably parents are buying, grandparents are buying, maybe kids who don't really know what they're getting, don't understand computers. Or why else do you go to Walmart and pay prices that are over every other SI in the market? Even if you don't want to build one, that's a valid, you don't have to build a computer. There's no elitism here. If you want to buy one, that's perfectly fine. But just buy one that makes sense for the price. And there are plenty of competitors who will build a better system. Again, we've got that iBuyPower one. Has dust filters. This has no dust filter. And for something which is probably never going to be open because it is a pre-built, it should have some basics like dust filtration. This thing's going to get packed with dust as it gets used, and that is going to hurt that small air cooler. It's just going to struggle as it ages. So just kind of really being cheap where they shouldn't be. I think probably just one of the weirdest choices is this one. I keep coming back to it, I know, but USB 3, instead of coming from up there and going into the motherboard, it's going to the back for a single Type-C header. One. Which shows that there was zero customization of this case other than the side panel and the front panel being printed on or having that logo glued onto it. Because if there were any customization, you could stick that into a USB port, like an existing USB 2 header. You just stick it in there and fill it with plastic. It doesn't even need to be retooled. So kind of weird, but no customization going on. Probably no one really in product development who knows what they're doing, hopefully. Because if they do, I'm sorry. But anything else? I don't know. I think that's about it. Really, the biggest problem here, other than spending $600 plus more than the cost of this computer by Walmart's own prices, not counting the amount they were already gouging the prices. The biggest problem, I suppose, is, I was just looking at the Core i7 8th Gen sticker, is that the component choice is bad. So even for this model, $1,400, I think, 1070 with a single stick of 16 gigabytes of memory in an H series, H310 motherboard, where you've got 1 DIMM per channel with a truncated DMI or a bus speed over DMI, and then other component choices like, well, the power supply. 500 watt, Great Wall power supply, no 80 plus certification on it. You can get better components from any other SI, and part of this is they've got deals in place. They have people who work there who know what they're doing. Even if you don't agree with buying a pre-built, like you gotta acknowledge that this is objectively worse than the pre-builts from pretty much every other SI that we all know the name of. I mean, Menger is kind of on the expensive end. Origin, absolutely expensive end. Alienware is kind of a joke these days. Then you've still got CyberPower, iBuyPower, and Digital Storm, all the other ones in between, Zydax, all of them. At least they have enthusiasts there. NZXT's BLD, that's a new one. They have enthusiasts there who know what they're doing. And the component choice generally at least uses enthusiast-grade components. I mean, stuff that you can buy DIY. You could buy this Great Wall power supply DIY, but you know what I mean. It doesn't really count. So it's not brand name. So yeah, there's your $2,100 computer. It's actually a $1,400 computer. I guess we gotta work that out with Walmart and get a replacement. And very, very disappointed in the build quality overall. Disappointed in the buying experience. And I guess at this point we'll finish our test. We did thermals already, so we'll do some more now. And what we can do is run it through testing. Then we'll build a system with the same core components, perhaps like an 8700 and a 1070, I guess, or 1080 Ti, and then see if there's any performance difference from upgrading the motherboard and upgrading the cooling solution, because the case sucks. So that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more. You can go to store.gamersnexus.net. If you want to buy the PC building mat I worked on in this video, it's the one we make. It's a very high quality build service. Or you go to patreon.com/gamersnexus. It helps out directly there as well. And we'll have more coverage on this, so stay tuned. Actually, we have a head-to-head with an incumbent SI. I'll see you all next time.